props.
Okay. I'm Sam Powers, and this is my mother.
Dr. Stacy Leon, and I am a child and adolescent psychiatrist and adult psychiatrist.
All right. We'll just get right into it. When did you start studying for the MCAT?
Well, I graduated in 4.5 years, so I started probably, I guess it would be my junior year, and the spring of it, and I took a class that was at that time on the drag, and it was on the corner of Guadalupe and MLK. And so I started studying for it that whole semester, and I had a group of friends, and we met in the library like 3 or 4 times a week, and basically studied all semester. I studied all semester, and we took it in May. We started in January. We took it in May. I took every Saturday we'd go to class, and then during the week we would schedule time to get a room in the library and study together. So it was a lot of work.
Okay. And what was school like? Because I know you were a math major.
Right. So I had all my math classes, and then I took the pre-med classes on top of it.
Nice.
But I loved math, so that was fun. I think the pre-med classes were harder for me in a way, biology and chemistry, because I thought math was really fun and I could understand it really well. So.
Well, all right. And what does it look like to be a resident versus an attendant?
Okay, so resident, first you have to do internship and residency. So internship is your first year out of medical school, and that's the really hard year where you're working. Basically back then we would work 36-hour shifts. So we would go to work in the morning, work all the way through the night, and then work all the next day and go home. I think they don't do that anymore, but it's still
I don't think so, because that's
kind of brutal.
It doesn't sound very...
Yeah, and sometimes you would have to be on call every 3 nights. So every 3 nights you would work a 36-hour shift. Then you'd go home and sleep and have a regular day, and then you would do it again.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good. Did y'all get paid as a resident?
Yeah, we got paid, and every year, like the interns got paid for the least amount, so it wasn't very much, but it was enough to live on. And then every year you got paid a little bit more. And my residency was 5 years because I did a fellowship in child psychiatry. So by the 5th year, to me, I was making a decent amount of money, but it was not very much money.
Okay.
Or like a teacher's salary.
Okay. And then how often do you use biology in your everyday life for work?
I would say every day because I prescribe medications, and so I have to understand physiology and the human biology to know how the medications interact with people's organ systems and how they interact with each other. And so I'm constantly thinking about biology, chemistry when I'm working with people.
Okay. And what's your favorite part of your job?
Seeing people get better. That's probably why anybody's a doctor. Because over time, mine is more of a long-term process, but over time, people get better, and it's really nice to see them move on with their lives and go about what they originally set out to do.
Mm-hmm. And what about the hardest part?
In every field in medicine, it's probably the same type of thing, but it's different in every field. So it's people doing poorly, or people struggling, or emergency situations. Mm-hmm. So,
well, yours seems very stressful.
Do you want specifics on my field?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so my field is really stressful when people are suicidal. And I see a lot of college kids and high school kids, and when they're really not doing well, and especially this year with the pandemic, there's been a lot more kids that are suicidal and struggling in school and not doing well. And so it's been really hard. Mm-hmm. And people are getting better, but it's much less this year than other years. It's been much more stressful. I've had many more emergencies, so that's probably the hardest part of my job.
Mm-hmm. And what is one more? What challenges do you feel you're facing today in your job, psychiatrist, that you all are facing?
So it's difficult because as a psychiatrist, the best care I think is prescribing medications and doing the therapy, so seeing the whole person and working with families because I work with kids too. But as far as the reimbursement with insurance, they don't pay for that. And so I have to have people pay out of pocket for the quality of care that I think is necessary. So I can't treat a certain population. So it's really about the healthcare system that I think needs to provide this care for everybody, because if they can't pay out of pocket for it, they're getting it scattered in different places, and I don't think the care is quite as good. So it's a lot of it's the insurance issue, the reimbursement issue, and I think medicine in general is struggling with that.
Mm-hmm. And what about, like, is the field that you work in changing or anything like that? I'm sure it is.
There's a lot of new, there's always new medications coming out, but there's new biological treatments like ketamine and other treatments that are coming along in the research. So it's always evolving as far as like what biological treatments. The psychological treatments are similar, but there's kind of some more social treatments as far as different types of therapy and family therapies and kind of more intensive programs for kids and adolescents. So that is better, and it is always evolving, so I have to keep up with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and how do you keep up with your medical training and licensing and stuff like that?
Well, I have to do 30 hours of medical training just to keep up my license a year of coursework. But then I usually do an extra 30 specifically in my field. So a lot of times I'll do medical seminars just to make sure I'm understanding the biology and the chemistry and all that kind of stuff. But then I'll do specific psychiatry seminars on child and adolescent psychiatry or adult psychiatry. And I used to like to go to the meetings because then I would get to see people in my field and we could talk about our cases and kind of have a peer review and collegiality. But this year I'm unable to do that, so it's been online. Mm-hmm. So probably just like you guys, I don't really like doing school online. I would much rather go to it'll be like a 3-day or a 5-day meeting, and you can get 30, 60, 80 hours of what they call continuing medical education and go to various different talks and see what's happening new in the field and all that. It's really exciting, and then you talk to other people or the researchers, and nobody's been able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And you also get to travel when you do that, right?
Right, so it's fun. And I get to meet friends from around the country because we all get together and we go to the meeting, and I haven't seen them all years. So it's nice.
Mm-hmm. And did you always want to be a doctor, and what made you choose your specific profession?
Well, okay, so my dad was a psychiatrist, and so I had thought about going to medical school, but when I got to college, I was being a typical teenager, and I said, I don't want to go to medical school because my dad is doing that.
Yeah.
So that's why I went to be a math major. I thought, okay, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to be a math major. I started doing math, I really liked it, but I realized, okay, unless I'm going to be a researcher, I didn't necessarily have a future in that field, mm-hmm. and that I should consider medical school. So I went back and took the biology and chemistry, and also realizing that once you go to medical school, there's all kinds of things you can do with it. So it really seems like you're narrowing your path, but you're really opening yourself up to a lot of things. You can go into any specialty, you can do research, you can teach, you can see patients, you can do administration. So you really have a lot of things from there.
Mm-hmm. And if you could change anything about your profession or your field, what would it be?
Well, I think in some ways it's my particular practice. I'm just on my own and I'm managing everything. Mm-hmm. So I'm the office administrator. I'm on call for myself all the time. I do all the scheduling and all that, which I don't have to do, but it does make better care, I think. So I think if I change something, I probably, and I don't know if this is a field in general, but I think it goes back to that reimbursement issue. So if the situation with healthcare and the reimbursement was better for psychiatry, I could probably work in a bigger practice and not have to take on all those things myself, mm-hmm. and kind of delegate it out to different areas.
Okay. Are there a lot of those where there's a bunch of psychiatrists under one company? Because I don't know.
There are a few of them, but it's difficult because then you have to pay a big overhead. So.
Yeah.
So you have to pay for all these staff and all these billing people. So mm-hmm. there are a few of those, but it's not as much as like other practices where it's big practice and they're bought out by a big hospital corporation. Mm-hmm. So, I guess probably the issue is with it's either you kind of do your own thing or you have some kind of big corporation in charge of everything, which is then you lose your autonomy. So that's not so great either.
And are there any professional organizations that psychiatrists participate in?
I'm in a lot of professional organizations. So I'm in the American Academy of Psychiatry, which is the adult psychiatry organization around the country, and then meetings, and you get to do your medical education credit. I'm also in the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. That is basically the same thing, but it's for child and adolescent psychiatry. I belong to the Royal Society of Medicine, and they have a lot of great programming.
Yeah.
And then I also belong to the Texas Medical Association and the Travis County Medical Society, so I can keep up on what's going on in Travis County in medicine, especially with the coronavirus situation. That has been really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be it. But.
Okay.